the short-lived Federation period, and of course, the lowering of the Union Jack and the hoisting of our own flag. And that experience has the music of the period has helped us to understand better that transition. Because it's not all of us who sit in the history class and the sociology classes and are able to make sense of the lecture, especially at primary school level. But pop culture has really given us such insight, not only into what's taking place here in Jamaica, but globally. And so I thought it apt that we should look through the lens of pop culture at what has transpired, for better and for worse. We have accomplished a lot, goes without saying. But we have accomplished much more through culture than the rest of accomplishments. That's my opinion. Especially when you look at music and the arts, and in the last 20 or so years, the Usain Bolt era, certainly, what athletics have been able to do for this country. We must therefore look among that constituency to find out who are our messengers and our prophets and so on. And so I thought by pulling together this year's Groundnation to address those things, to look at music, the lyric of music, and even the sound of instrumental music. For example, Rico Rodriguez's August 1962, believe it or not, that's the name of a song, of a person blowing a trombone. You know? Don Drummond's Serenade in Sound. It's an ode to that moment. Not to mention Derek Morgan's Forward March, etc. Lord Creator's Jamaica Gain Independence. Going back, we look at the Mentor period. There are songs such as Baba Motors, Make We Federate. But on the opposite end, no, no, no federation, no, we don't want it. So the music is really keeping us abreast. And as we go through the weeks, you'll see how up to the present, the music includes those kinds of things. So that's what really inspired me to do this particular Groundnation, to have an opportunity to look at big youth singing about the Green Bay killing. These are things we try to erase from our minds without coming to grips with it, a sort of catharsis, a kind of reckoning with our past to see why, for example, the violence and the situation that Dion just mentioned is here with us today. And I think unless we look deeply into the violent past out of which Jamaica has emerged from the transatlantic, even prior to that, from the first armada from Spain that displaced the indigenous people, through colonialism to the present, it seems as if violence is at every level, psychological and physical. So I figure this is a great forum for us to go through that. We have many of us in the audience who can address that from a personal point of view, and we have scholars who were born after that period who can analyze it from a scholarly point of view.
Thank you so much, Herbie. And to be clear, we'll start off with the panel, have them establish their thoughts, and we'll do a little bit of a Q&A at first. And then, of course, a critical aspect of any Groundnation is to hear from you. So we will be coming to the floor for your questions and your own comments in pretty short order. Let me start with you, though, Sonia. When you listen to this topic, music and political advocacy, where do you start in your mind? Where do you position this? Hello, hello, hello.
Microphone? Yes? There we go. No? It's working. So first of all, thank you very much, Herbie, for inviting me once again to be part of Groundnation. You all out there look really wonderful, and I'm very pleased to be here in person and not via Zoom. So to your question, Madam Moderator, it would be remiss of me not to engage in a more historical reflection to answer your question. And for me, when Herbie asked me to speak, I said, let me do what my ancestors are telling me to do. And that has to do with the way in which we must remember the drum. And I'm starting with the word drum for a reason. So my little 3 minutes of engagement is about taking us back through a conversation about the drum. Today, the drum, of course, is represented by what I call Jamaica's national instrument, which is a sound system. And if you leave here with nothing else today, I want you to remember that Jamaica's national instrument, in the way that we can talk about Trinidad's national instrument as the steel pan, that Jamaica's national instrument is the sound system. So let me take you, yeah man, you can clap for that. Let me take you back to the 17th century, where I want to begin a conversation about the drum. If you go back to 1717, well, even before that actually, if you go back to 1717, there is the beginning of a conversation already happening in this so-called New World about the banning of instruments. So the drums, percussive instruments, were banned in this part of the world. They were banning things like obeah, not just in Jamaica, but spiritual practices across the Caribbean. When you think about, just even ways to assemble, and by the time we get to the 19th century, there are laws about vagrancy that are being used to prevent people from associating, from even occupying space in the city. So let's begin to think about the ways in which the state and its apparatuses construct, through even legislative platforms, ways to restrict the very essence of the being of black people in this part of the world. The very black people who, through their sweat and tears, through their ways of associating, through their ways of honoring their own ancestors, through the creation of music, the creation of certain sounds, what they brought with them from the old world. These people who were, with an imperative to celebrate, being suppressed. So in my work, what's occupying me nowadays is this history of entertainment suppression and the ways in which, anytime we talk about Jamaican music, we must begin with an understanding that the drums were the first things being suppressed. And if you think of the drum as a kind of metaphor of being, of ways of being, of the ways in which we connect to the old world, but then in this world, connect to what then becomes the sound system drum, all right? Because when you hear the music of the sound system, you talk about a heartbeat rhythm, but you can't stand in front of those towers of speaker boxes without being pounded, without your heart being affected by them. And so I want us to not think about this word noise. I want us to think about the word sound in sound system. I want us to think about the word sound as a way to think about the ways in which we have tried to live and have our being, and also to push back against the very kinds of suppression that have been stacked against us. And I say us because I am speaking here as a representative of my ancestors. I will leave this 3 minutes of first initial engagement with the fact that the sound system in today's Jamaica, which has infected, and I talk about this infected, I use the word infected after scholars such as Barbara Browning, who talk about infectious rhythms, that these infectious rhythms have been infecting the world in very specific ways. So you think about Jamaican music from Federation, you think about 1940s, the people such as Hedley Jones, who we can't leave out of the innovation around the amplification of sound that gives us a sound system. You think about the ways in which the sound is very much germane to who we have become as a people with this instrument of the sound system infecting the rest of the world. So Jamaican music and its global influence is very much a part of this conversation in terms of the music created since the 1940s, when we can talk about indigenous Jamaican music such as mento coming into the different eras. So the sound system is at the heart of this innovation and the development of indigenous Jamaican music. I'll leave it there.
Okay, Isis, your turn.
Hello, everyone. My microphone is working. All right, so it's really great to see you all here. Hello, I'm Nancy. All right, so I'll just begin with the words that I have written here, and they may take a bit of a dark turn, but this is reality. So the political history that we've, and when I say we, I mean my generation and the generation that's younger than I am, that we have inherited is not one of inspiration and motivation. Our history books and newspapers tell us of a stunted move towards Pan-Africanism via Garvey, a sidestep away from colonialism, a failed federation, and a shift from British dependence towards what our own memories can recall, which is the power of North American tourist dollars, the terror of Tivoli Gardens incursion, and neo-colonial infrastructural support. That's what we have lived and can remember, my generation and the generation that is younger than I am. This is the history and recent history that flows through Protégé on Blood Money. But it's always been a part of his lyrical messaging. Take, for example, the 2015 single, Sudden Flight, where he speaks to younger Jamaicans' limited confidence in the democratic process when he says, "Lordy Doddy, nah join the party, look what the politician them do to Claudy. Look what the politician them do to Jim. Him son resurrected, and look what them do to him." The overwhelming belief that we are only marginally unshackled from slavery is what undergirds Massacre's lyrics on the 2020 single Promise. Tell me family me promise. Me swear say me I live lavish till the day that I vanish. Take a boat go afar and if it slow up in the 14 parish. Who them a blood clot trick like slavery abolish. While I'm dark and mid huggish. Bust your head with the 40, smooth like polish. This disappointment with the political system is what sits in the call and response between Lila Ike and Skilly Bang with the Thy Will remix. The system is for business, the system is for business, trick we kill we this way, trick we kill we this way, build we win, wait, can't read the rest of it, going too fast. But the call and response between Skilly and Lila Ike is critical because it considers how it is that the government continues to trick the people, only calling on the people when the people are necessary for votes. And it is a deep contempt for the system's foot on the younger generation's necks that makes Valiant's, more than Skang's, use of dunce so subversive when he sings, "None of una know dunce yet, back of the class, man on a subject," on the 2022 single Dunce Check. And then when Valiant follows with his own clarification for the dunce and judgmental educational and formal employment system that is listening in when he sings Jay's on Scholar, and here I'll quote at length. "Please don't judge me. Just left school and on a subject. Don't call me a dunce head. I'm a work in progress. Still have to come out and do something. Feel to build a boat and runway. Nothing not going in the country. What me I go do when me hungry? See man with 7 CXC still a thief. Me I go come a enemy because it's weak. Call center full up. Minimum wage still a give out. So how we I go reach? Don't fight me, cause me dress up in a polo. Mark X a blast, police I say fi slow down, like a uptown youth alone fish roll round. I provide these lyrics as a way in and a way forward. Jamaica's musical artists have the last 60 plus years been wrestling with and making sense of our political reality. The contemporary artists are no different. The rhythms may have changed, but Babylon still oppresses and the fire still blazes. The sins of the father have indeed come to visit the children and have notably neglected Jamaica's daughters. As gender-based violence pervades the nation and gender inequality continues to surface in the music's lyrics and production. Make we talk the things at today's Groundnation.
Thank you so much, Isis. And Herbie, I'm going to ask you to pick up. We heard Isis there mentioning some specific artists, citing specific lyrics. For you, who do you think of in terms of artists as being impactful when you talk about political advocacy?
Way back in the Second World War, we had mental singers singing. There's one song called Mussolini is a Musmus. And so when I said earlier on the global impact, these are some of our earlier artists who had already been addressing these sort of socio-political issues. In more modern times, by the late 50s, for example, there are songs about Ethiopia. There's Derek Morgan, for example, with his Rude is in Court, Prince Buster, Judge Dredd, the Wailers series of Rude Boy songs, among others. I mean, you know, when you think about Bob, Peter, and Bunny, and the weight that their music had, it goes without saying that our artists were the voice of the people. You think about Ethiopians, everything crashed in response to what was happening, say, around